Well, so this is an interesting topic. I never really thought about this before. That do you, maybe the ultimate goal on some level is to, I think I said this before, maybe I equate it to like boxers or something. You learn slowly how to punch and the mechanics of your hips as you pull into the punch and whatever. And then but when you're in the boxing ring, nobody's thinking, I'm going to turn my hips. The training is embedded in you. So you're going to go mix something you've been mixing for a long time. You're doing things essentially on instinct, where you're reaching for things without thinking like, I'm now going to use this tube thing because I know that it will probably, you're just doing it because you've done it so much. But then when it doesn't work and you go, okay, I'm starting from scratch, presumably then you have to think about what process led me to this thing that doesn't work.
That's fair.
How do you unpack that?
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I agree. I mean, I'm always trying to just work on instinct, and I fail at it all the time. But the ultimate goal of, I think, of almost any creative thing is to work and just kind of breathe it out. Like, it's the John Coltrane thing. If you don't live it, it doesn't come through the horn. Like he's just speaking the language. And I want to do that for production. You do that for mixing. But then if something's not working, then you have to go into training problem solving mode.
Well, there's usually one anecdote to that problem, and it's I did too much. So my second approach is usually doing less, and then it's usually right. So I
like that a lot.
It's very rare that I get that this happens twice. That epic fail of that was not the right approach happens the second time. So I think the first approach is, I did too much. Let me walk it back. But instead of walking it back little by little, let's start again and do less and see what happens.
So it really is the solution. Would you say the solution is almost always it needs to be simpler?
Yeah, I think so. I think at every majority of the time.
I think that's the case for me too, on the production side, on the songwriting side. I mean, how many people, I think the number one problem for all quote unquote pro songwriters, but all artists that write songs, I think everybody overwrites. Because everybody thinks that writing the simple melody or the simple lyric, you're in a room and you're talking about it over and over. And, my example is always James Blunt, "You're beautiful." Like if you come in and pitch that chorus to somebody and you go, "Hey, I got this hit chorus," the lyric goes, "You're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. It's true."
It's a hit.
It's a hit. Like, that's a hit. We got it. What a genius thing. But there's something about the emotion of it and the simplicity of it that makes it so powerful. And even though he's like a goofy art guy and a funny artist, and maybe, I don't know if he's a one-hit wonder, if he had other hits or whatever, but like there's something really powerful about being able to be that simple. And I think everybody overwrites. I always overmix, I over EQ, I overdo everything.
There's a lot there. With that song as the example, I mean, very few artists could say those lyrics in the same tone as he did and it be as believable, right? Yeah. So there's the performance and the delivery of the quirkiness of his voice works. I believe Bruno Mars had a song that's, Just the Way You Are, right? Like Billy Joel also had the same Just the Way You Are song. Like two songs were both hits at different times with believable artists with unique tone of voice singing those lyrics. So we could have another "You Are Beautiful" coming.
There's three songs called "Let Me Love You" that were number one songs in I think a 10 or 12 year period.
Right. So it's the connection. How many versions of that song have been written though in Los Angeles? Like
totally.
That didn't get heard. So, but let's jump back to overwriting. Everyone overwrites. Most people overwrite. Most people overproduce. Most people overmix. Most recording engineers who are comping over-edit the vocal performance, and then the artist comes back into the room and says, "Wait, where did all the feel go? Why is it so?" And then you realize it's micro-edited and it's all graded. And everyone has that learning experience. I'm extremely lucky to have learned from Tony Maserati. Right, when Tony's mixing, there are a lot of sounds, there are a lot of tracks in Pro Tools that do not have any plugins on them. Right, so I got really lucky to watch one of the masters and wizards of what I do not do anything to a sound for the final mix. He maybe grabbed the fader and did some rides. He might have left it alone because that sound did not need to be changed once he messed with another sound that was, sharing the same space. I have a hard time with that because I'm a geek and I'm a tweaker. So I used to, until I met him, put a plugin or 10 on every track. Now, since I met him and since I've kind of dialed in and understood my aesthetic that I'd like to bring to a record, either minor or major, not minor or major level of record, how much I am doing to the record. Am I having a minor involvement or a major contribution to it? I now have tracks that have 0 plugins on them. And it's not laziness. It's understanding that that thing feels right. It feels right for what it is. And it feels right in the greater picture of it all. So I think that's important to recognize in all aspects. Is the lyric right? Does it convey the emotion that the songwriter or the artist was trying to convey? Then it's done. Now, when you write the second verse, after you have the hook and the story twists away from maybe the resolve or the tension that the chorus is supposed to give you, then maybe it needs to be reassessed, or maybe that second verse isn't right because now it's not telling the same story. Like there are reasons that you have to go back, like I've brought up in the mixing realm. Okay, I made that bass move and it worked in the first chorus, second verse, first verse. And once you get to the bridge and then another bass comes in, it's like, ooh, maybe that bass needs to change because this new texture is coming in. Like it has to work throughout the song and throughout the story, whether it's in the songwriting or the mixing of the record. So it has to work from start to finish to some degree, and it needs to be open to being changed throughout. But still, the minimum effective dose is what we want. Yeah, right? That's like so. Anyway, that's my thought on that.
I think is maybe the point I was trying to get at earlier, which maybe I didn't quite say right. It really is like a certain kind of confidence that is required for simplicity, and if you can get something right in the simplest way, that's the biggest win. And that's why you have multiple songs with the same titles, because there's only a few emotions that are really coming through in popular music, because what you're really writing is a universal experience that's specific to you, and people connect to the emotion. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to say, let me love you, or just the way you are, or whatever it is, or you're beautiful. And people are going to keep writing those songs because it turns out that's the fundamental thing. And you can write the cleverest thing in the world. There's a David Foster a YouTube video of him at like a BMI or ASCAP awards thing, and he's given his 10 pieces of advice for songwriters, and a couple of them are funny, like save your money and don't get married unless you absolutely want to, because he's like 3 of my ex-wives are here, that sort of thing. It's a great video. But he says, don't be precious with your ideas. There's 26 letters and 12 notes, and Shakespeare and Beethoven already did it better than all of us. So don't be precious with your things. Just speak from your heart and go from there.